guys, welcome to Hear Me Out. On today's episode, we have two awesome guests that are going to be joining us. We have the famous, what do they call you on your podcast?
Lido.
Lido?
Lido, is that the latest?
Oh, Jolito.
It's Jolito. I like
and
it.
we have famous Maluma, apparently, Jacob.
Famous.
The one
Wait,
and
hold
only.
on. Did you come up with that one on your own?
No,
Or
that was
It's because everybody would joke about him calling him Suave or Maluma or
I don't
that
know
was
where
pretty much
came
it.
from. I don't know.
Jacobo.
It was a nickname given.
That's
of
usually how
course,
nicknames happen, I guess.
You have Lula and Kez again. So on today's episode, we're going to be talking about a couple of different topics. So stick around for the next couple of episodes where we're going to be talking about relationships, family, faith, culture, and careers. And today we have a special topic. So who wants to start off
with the questions?
questions?
The guest.
How about you?
I was going to say
one?
the host.
I'll pick.
All right, go ahead.
What if I pick wrong? I'm just kidding. All right.
Imagine just wrong answer. Wrong question.
Do you think having culture or being a part of culture is necessary?
All right, because you answered it, now you have... No, because you asked it, now you have to answer it.
Or you go.
What's culture?
Well,
I feel like I'm
I
not
guess that's part of the
cultured.
question. Well, I guess part of the question is for you to
Define culture.
define culture and then...
I feel like I would need an example to really like relate to it. So what is really culture?
Well, I think culture is pretty much a group that you think you belong. Like, for example, sports, the language you speak, the color scheme, ethnic background,
I guess like
religious group.
Yeah, like the definition would be like a group that yourself, I guess, you would feel like you would belong to, like almost like where your identity, kind of like.
I think I'm weird because I probably belong to a whole bunch of different groups. I feel like I have that sports side, but I also have like one of our episodes not too long ago, collectibles and nerding out and geeking out about certain things and movie buff, and then at the same time it's music, and it's not even just one specific genre of music, it's a little bit of everything. So I think I'd be very neutral on it. Probably could relate to a lot of different people.
But do you think it's necessary?
Do I think it's necessary? No, because that would defeat the purpose of myself.
Yeah, it's true. Like in life.
I mean,
Because then I would be able to say I have multiple cultures.
Right.
Yeah.
What about an ethnic background, for example?
that could be, yeah.
Yeah, that
Like,
could be one.
Right?
I think. Well, I mean,
Like,
I guess,
are you Mexican? Are you American? Are
definitely
you
Mexican.
Really?
In that definition of Mexican culture, probably not. But I think I could relate to it to a certain extent compared to other people. But at the same time, I probably wouldn't consider myself part of that group fully.
right?
Like 100%.
yeah, like you wouldn't identify as just one. Like, for example, there's like church culture,
Yeah.
there's car culture, there's sports culture, there's dog people culture. Like,
See, I have all those. I have a dog. I have collectibles.
Do you-
I enjoy cars.
Is there one that you feel like is really a part of
that's the thing. I think like some people have one that it like stands out, whether they choose to or not. They just find themselves like passionate about it for some reason.
I think it would probably be not really finance, but like I don't even know, like entrepreneur.
about.
Yeah, learning and educating myself to further myself financially and education, and yeah. So I would say probably lean a little bit more towards that, but not really. I don't want to say 100% because I'm not like you know how they say finance bros. I wouldn't say I'm out there literally nonstop hustling because I have other hobbies and other stuff
Yeah.
like that. So
He has other cultures.
I have other cultures. I need.
You're
to
very
attend to.
cultured.
Yes.
I would agree
Multicultural.
with Joel, because like when we were thinking about this topic, I would say you're more cultured than I am as far as like an ethnic background, because for me there are a lot of references, jokes, I mean movies even like that probably our Mexican culture would identify with, and there's a lot of things that I feel like I mean, not to put race here, but I feel like in that sense, I would be more American than I am
Oh, yeah. I see what
Mexican.
you're saying.
You see what I'm saying? So like even growing up, like there were certain things like that I never knew about. Like to this
Oh,
day,
yeah.
pastor sometimes like, do you know who this person is? And he'll mention like a president or like someone. I'm like, I have no idea who that is. And it's like, this was a person that like, you know, brought the independence to Mexico. And I'm like, I don't know. Like I know Nixon,
Yeah.
you know? So I think in that sense, like I don't really identify very much with my ethnic culture. I think the closest thing that I could say it's like the main one is like church culture. Like I grew up in church and I like can identify like if someone's talking about watching VeggieTales or like sleeping under the pews or like, you know, agradecimiento and singing that song, you know? So in that sense, like that's where I would probably like, you know, see.
I think we're also kind of talking about like community. Like we're I think like I don't know if that's a good thing or bad thing, but I think a lot of people connect community and culture. And I don't know if that's a good or bad thing, but I do know there's also like a negative sense of culture because the other side of it is like if you're someone who's trying to be like a poser, I don't know if you know, like like growing up, I remember I thought skateboarding was really cool. Was I a skater myself? I wasn't, but did I like to dress like one? Sure. Did I like to have a skateboard and like try to do tricks? Yeah. And like just by trying, I thought like, oh, that makes me a skater. But it's almost like
You're not a true one.
You're not a true one, so it's almost like you're a poser. But I don't know. I think that's a bad look on that.
No, I mean it's true. There are like people who are very much like either you're 100% this and you know all the references and you know belong. Everything, or you don't belong. So
Right.
yeah, I would agree.
Right.
What about you, Lula?
Yeah, definitely. I think that society assigns one to you as well. Society assigns a culture to you. And unfortunately, sometimes it's a racial culture in society, right? You're either this or that, or you're either Mexican, or you're either black, or you're either white, or, you know, all this different cultures. So I think that when society does that, it's very difficult to find a place sometimes, because it's like I'm neither this nor that. Like, for example, for me, when I go to Mexico, they tell me, you have an accent, you're not from here. And it's like, no, I was born here.
Really?
You know, and like I'm Mexican, you know, and like every bone in me is Mexican. But then I come, you know, I've been living here in the U.S. for 16 plus years, and it's like, oh, I love your accent, so exotic. And I'm like, so to me, it's I'm neither. I'm neither. You know, when I go to Mexico, I'm not Mexican.
Yeah.
And when I'm here, I'm not American either. Yeah. So to me, it's very difficult because society on both ends assigns that to me. Yeah. You're not from here.
Yeah.
So I think, but however, for me, culture, for me, I don't think it's necessary, but it is important. It is important because, for example, I mean, I eat tortillas, I eat salsa, I love spicy food. And so I think, and then my accent is not something that's going to go away anytime soon, you know? So I think that even if I wanted to assimilate even more, I wouldn't be able to. Because again, society wouldn't let me in certain areas. Yeah. And
at some point they're going to be able to say you're different.
I'm different, yeah. And
there's a line that's going to be drawn.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so I think because of that, it's not necessary that it's not that it's necessary, but I think it is important because ultimately you still get it assigned to you. You still have that, you know, where are you from? What's your ethnic background? You know, people ask that nowadays.
Yeah.
Although it's very, you know, we're in the society where you need to walk on eggshells because you have snowflakes everywhere and people can get offended. So maybe some people won't ask you straight up.
Yeah.
But at least when I was in college, there was always that underlying tone of, I know you're not from here, so where are you really from?
Did you guys ever feel like anybody like questioned you guys? Like I personally never experienced that. Like where you're from or like are you from Mexico? Like I feel like
no,
I never really experienced that.
To an extent. The other side of it is like if I didn't speak Spanish properly, which I don't, like my Spanish is not the best, but like there would be people who would be offended, like straight up Mexicans like straight from Mexico that would be offended, like you can't speak your own language kind of thing. And I get that, but at the same time, it's not like nothing that should be like looked down upon. Like it all has to do with where you were born and where you were raised and your family. Like it doesn't matter like your ethnicity. That's what why America is America. Like doesn't just have one race. It's the country of all races and all ethnicities and everything. So, but I think like the negative side of culture is that gatekeeping side.
Yeah.
And like the positive side is the community aspect of it.
Right.
Do you guys feel like I know like for the three of us, like we were born here, do you guys feel like learning Spanish is important or it's not?
I what'd you say?
No, I was gonna say it's definitely important, especially in California in itself, because there's so many people that come from Mexico, or just since we're so close to the border, it's going to be way different than let's say North Dakota.
Yeah,
there's going to be more
100%.
people that speak that language here.
I would
you see
say
it more career and work wise.
Right.
Career, work wise. I mean, yeah, they pay you more if you know multiple languages, and if it's that specific one, well, there you go.
Yeah, I mean, I think 100%. Not for the reason that I said earlier, where if you don't, then you're looked down upon. Not for that reason at all. Purely for the reason of communicating.
Yeah.
And being a better communicator. And the more languages you speak, guess what? The more of the world that you have access to, the more opportunities you have access to.
Yeah.
And so I think like growing up, I wish I would have like definitely not only been like more focused on speaking Spanish, because I used to be like, no, I don't want to speak Spanish. Like I'm never going to speak it. Like I was so closed-minded, but I would definitely wish that. And I wish I would have learned other languages. I mean, French. Like and this is embarrassing. I didn't know that there was a part of Canada where they speak French.
Yeah.
I did not. And like, that was such a like, wow. Like, and something so simple, but.
Would you guys agree with this statement that to truly be fully in that culture, you would have to live it every single day? Because of the way that you were describing it, you would go back to where you were from, and they'd be like, oh, you have an accent, and vice versa. If you came back over here, it's like, oh, you have an accent. So unless you're there 24/7 living that lifestyle, you aren't fully cultured in that sense.
That's a really good question. I think that you can try to be part of that culture, but if I would say that if you weren't born in that culture, you will never fully assimilate. You can become part of it, and you can sort of mingle with people of that culture, and you can sound and maybe sometimes look like it, but I don't think you would fully be that.
Yeah.
But yes, definitely. Like, for example, in college, when I was learning Korean, the Korean teacher would tell us, you need to think, see, smell, see in Korean. So the more you
Engulf yourself.
in that culture, the more you're going to learn it, the more you're going to think, smell, and speak, and and dream in Korean. And she was right. The more I made friends with Koreans, the more
Did you dream in Korean?
I would dream in Korean. I would. and
never dreamed in French.
And until this day, I still there are words that I can't come up with in Spanish nor in English. They have to be Korean. And expressions in Korean. So yes, however, do I think that going to live over there and living for a year, just surrounded by Koreans, would that make me a Korean? No, I don't. I think I could learn to appreciate it, and I can learn to sound and probably, dress like them. But I don't think I would ever be.
You could never
Korean.
identify as a Korean.
Yeah.
I think you could understand the culture, and that that's healthy.
Yeah.
But to go as far as to say that you identify as that's a whole nother.
I started laughing internally because I saw this meme a couple weeks ago of this guy who genuinely, he was born in China, and he is trying to speak English, and he sounds like, and the comments are like, man, this guy probably, like, Chinese people think that he's probably making fun of them because he has this thick Asian accent, but he was genuinely born there. And so it's like, even in his case, where he's born there and he knows the culture and he could mimic in a way, like when you see him, you're like, oh, he's not from here, you know? So I actually think that like, even if you live somewhere 24/7, kind of like going with what Jacob was saying, I feel like there's always going to be something that people will find like it's not 100%.
the gatekeepers.
Especially for us, like, you know, as Christians, like we're not always going to look exactly like the world. So there might be some similarities we'll have, but I think there's always going to be like, oh, well, you know, you wear skirts or something, you know, and there's like, that's different. So,
Yeah.
Well, I think there's probably, I guess you could say, like subcultures within a culture, because if you think about
Yeah.
it, if we're comparing the U.S. with Mexico, but if you compare California with New York,
Mm-hmm.
and then if you go even deeper, Southern California and Northern California,
Mm-hmm.
completely different. Then you go into like a county. Counties,
Oh, yeah.
certain areas, they're different demographics, different.
Like the Valley Girls.
Yeah, there's-
true.
Yeah,
True.
there's different people, different cultures. I mean, even in LA, there's literally an area that's called Little Tokyo and Little China, and Koreatown. I mean,
Armenia
that's
Town, I think.
little culture pockets
Yeah.
in themselves.
See, I think like it's kind of interesting what you said about that society assigns those for you. I wouldn't say, I guess society assigns those, but I would say like what is true to you is more of an accurate like identify, I guess, a way to identify with what culture you're in, because like if you're trying to be part of another culture that you think like, oh, that's a cool one, I want to try to be a part of that, you're now trying to be something that is not true to you. If you are who you are and who you like, and you do, you know, the things that are passionate to you, and if dogs are very passionate to you, like you don't have to try to force something, you know, that isn't authentic, because that's what it comes down to, authenticity, kind of what you were like touching on. So I think like if people were just more okay with expressing like the things that they enjoy doing. Like some people, I guess, are shy about like, oh, maybe I'll get judged for saying I like this or that. Like, forget all that. Like, if you are just authentic, that won't exist. And that's where like the assignment, I guess, will come in as far as like what culture you belong to, because you'll realize like there's communities out there that like are one culture. So I just think like
I think it depends.
with certain things.
I think with like your race and your ethnicity, I think
Yeah.
those are things that naturally, I guess not necessarily society labels it, or it's kind of like you're automatically born into this, so therefore there is a culture that comes with it. If we're talking about things outside of like race and ethnicity, I do think those are things that, yeah, you're right, maybe society won't really have control over. It's more of us like being a part of it, and I'm choosing to be part of this culture. But I think that like when it comes to like I can't wake up tomorrow and like be black, you know,
Yeah.
or like try to, you know, be that in certain ways. So I do think in that sense it's like kind of set in stone, you know.
Yeah.
With
But
certain, yeah,
with
I think when
things.
it comes to like, yeah, I mean, it's just like, because I keep thinking like, is it a good thing or a bad thing? Is it a good thing or a bad thing? Well, there are good things about it, and there are bad things about it. I think it's dangerous when you try to make your entire identity based around a culture. I think that's a little dangerous,
Yeah,
because
I see what
then
you're saying.
and I think that's the part that isn't necessary, I guess. As a matter of fact, should be like guarded against, I guess. That specifically, like with your own
Like
I
this,
guess.
my whole identity is based
Yeah.
on the fact that I am Mexican, or the fact that I'm straight,
Exactly.
or the fact that, yeah,
because
I
that
would
leads
agree.
you to push people away. You don't want to do that.
You start comparing yourself like, okay, he's not Mexican.
Yeah, you should never be
Or
comparing.
he's not this enough.
Right.
And he's not a skater dude like I am. So I can't really hang out
Yeah,
with him.
on
He's
that I
not
would
full
agree.
100%.
Yeah.
What's the second part of that question?
Well, that's what it was. It was, is it necessary?
I would say no.
I think in life, yeah. I don't know if it's like, I agree. I don't think it's necessary, but I think it's important to be part of something,
Community.
you know,
Yeah.
in community. Okay. So we kind of already kind of tackled it, even though we weren't. It's what culture do you identify with? So if you could choose something that kind of stands out more than other things in your life, not that it's your entire base for your identity, but something that you identify more,
See, I don't know. That's a little tricky because I believe your culture, your like, I guess not your identity, but like you're always constantly growing. So your life is always changing. You're always a different person, like today than you were yesterday. Like imagine you liked the same things you liked 10 years ago. Like, so you're gonna identify with different things. But what would you say? Your culture, my own culture. I don't know. I don't want to be labeled as one thing. That's one thing I've like kind of tried to get rid of, is try to label myself. But I mean, I guess if I'm being honest, like I've loved sports, so I have to identify with some type of culture around sports.
I think like how you're saying, you slowly are growing and getting older and trying new things, so you slowly become multicultural. Because let's say in high school you did football, or you did like how Tim was saying he wanted to do golf, and let's say once you get out of it and you're in college, you decide tennis, and it's still a sport, but now it's tennis. And then from that you jump over to something like basketball or something like that. That's just one analogy, but yeah.
So yeah, because I was actually going to touch on that. I was going to say how yes, we change, but there's always an essence to you. There's always that sporty guy. You know, there's always, for example, for me, I would label myself as Mexican, even though in Mexico they question it. But I would say that's something that's part of my essence. Obviously,
being a fit person, that's also part of you. I say this because it's not a good day if Lula didn't go to the gym. Okay. That's why.
I agree with that. I mean,
but even that does, like, for example, if you tell me stop going to the gym for 2 weeks, all right, yeah, I'm not gonna like it, but that doesn't make. It's not a makeup of my essence.
Right.
However, being Mexican, it is a makeup of my essence. If you were to tell me don't eat tortillas, I will have a hard time. If you were to tell me
try not to speak Spanish for a month.
Exactly, or try not to get the joke. Try not to listen to banda. Try not to watch a movie that has just this very elaborate, for me, jokes. Right.
Yeah.
Because it's the stuff you like.
Because it's the stuff I like. Now, is that my identity, my whole identity? No, it's not. I think my identity is in God, in Christ, and that is who I am. Lula is a child of God. But is being Mexican something that is very close to my heart? Yes, it is. And I think that's part of my essence. And yes, I might change through life, but I'm always going to like spicy food. I'm always going to, enjoy the jokes and all that.
I can change the question, because what I'm hearing is you wouldn't be you if it wasn't for this. Yeah. In a sense. Yeah. Like you would not have this personality or this character if it didn't have something to do with you being Mexican. Yes. So then in reality, it's like, what are you a part of, or in a sense connected with, that you would not be you, Joel, you Jacob, because if you didn't have it or you weren't a part of it.
So yeah, I like that it changes the questions more to like, what are you passionate about? What do you find yourself just in spending hours on? I don't know. At that point, for me, it could be music, sports for sure, stuff about growth. Like it could be so many different things, Yeah. But
is there any like one specific thing? Like if we
took
this,
I would not be
Jacob,
me if I did not have music in my life. If I could no longer listen to music or hear sounds or anything, I would not be me. Like everything that I think and do of is in like a cadence, like a rhythm or a melody. I hear stuff, all that and everything. And so I don't know. It would have definitely.
Because you're a musician at the core.
Yeah.
Even though I haven't played in a while, but yeah.
Yeah, that's his essence.
But you still listen to music on the daily, so that's still part of it. Yeah.
My essence. That's a hard question, because I've never really thought about it. I never really.
You've never thought about it?
No, I've never really thought of like what really makes me me. But if I right now, as I'm thinking about it and processing, even though we all identify as being Christian, I do think that's a major part of why I am the way that I am. Because every reference, every joke, every every reason why I didn't go this far on this particular thing, or I didn't
Had to do with
experience, all of it surrounds itself around that, even down to our marriage. Like, we're going to do this because, the Bible says, so like, not to sound overly spiritual, because I'm not
That's
a
not
perfect
what it is at
person.
all.
It's more of
Yeah.
just like, that's been ingrained in me since I was a child. Like, and I've mentioned this in our podcast, like, I grew up with, like, my mom's like, we're going to read the Bible every day. Like, and you're going to sit through it and you're going to like it. And it's just a part of me. It's never going to change.
Did you like it?
So, no, my mom would get pissed. She would, like, lower her glasses and she would say in Spanish, pon reverencia, which is basically like, place reverence for God, like, I'm reading. But she's reading in Spanish. And she's reading basically the King James version in Spanish.
Dude.
So I'm sitting there and I'm like,
That's
I don't know
rough.
what you're saying, but that's what I grew up with. That is a part of
Right.
me, more than any ethnic or hobby.
Did you grow
Yeah.
up like in church?
I did.
Oh,
I
okay.
actually did. However, yes, I grew up with my mom reading to us, and we loved it. And
You loved it, like
I really liked the
Like-
storytelling.
the storytelling. Okay,
Yeah, I really enjoyed my mom.
because it was fed to you in a way that you enjoyed processing.
Yes, yes. I think it wasn't until I was in high school where I had a glitch, and I really I didn't feel like my identity was in God or in church. I didn't feel connected to anything. So I that's one of the reasons why, for me, being a child of God didn't start until later years. And now I can know that's my identity. But being Mexican, that was always a thing.
What about you? What about you makes you Joel?
Well, I like the way you guys worded it, where it's like, what if we took that away from you would not make you you anymore?
Right.
And I think it was kind of hard, but I think it would be progress, because in anything I do, I need to have progress to really enjoy it and have drive to do more of it. Because if you took that away from me, I would be stagnant. And I've always told you multiple times, like, my biggest fear is retiring.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think I could ever see myself retire. Like, till the day I die, I'm probably gonna be doing something.
You think
Wow.
you get that from your dad?
Probably,
Up
yeah,
to
because
that,
he's
I
got
think.
that like salesman, like, let's go do this type of mentality, where it's
Get
like,
the
okay,
bread.
get the bread,
that
yeah, and yeah, I think it kind of stuck to.
I think it's all right, not to interrupt you, but not to go into detail unless you want to share it. But I think that the reason why you think that way is because there was a point where someone did say, this person is not going to progress. He has no progress from this.
Oh, like you have a chip on your shoulder,
Oh yeah, no, definitely
and that
so,
motivated you.
Yeah,
So you live with like I'm gonna prove them wrong and keep grinding kind of thing.
yeah. So what she's
You're part of
saying,
grinding mentality.
yeah, exactly. I think what she's
culture.
saying, that a lot of people didn't know this, but my mom like put me on the spot one time when I graduated. But I was in special ed pretty much the majority of my schooling,
Mhm.
and they told my mom, after they did like multiple tests, moved me
Mhm.
from classes, that the likelihood I was not going to graduate high school,
Mhm.
and
They told your mom
they
that.
told
not
my
you?
mom that, not me.
Uh-huh.
They told my mom that, and then they started putting me in like not so difficult classes.
Yeah.
There's no longer
The
so many
challenge was gone.
kids. Yeah, there was no
Oh, they took the
challenge.
challenge out of
So-
your life, and someone like you, like, that's the worst thing you could do for.
And then what I ended up doing was I started working harder, and I started getting out of that. So then eventually, by the time I got to high school, like, I was out of special ed. They moved me up 3 classes, and I was back to like normal college prep classes.
Yeah.
And even then, after that, my mom, when we graduated, my mom put me on the spot when we had our party, and she told not only like everyone she invited, because she started crying, and she did like this little speech. Like, they told me he was never gonna graduate, and I'm like,
Praise,
are you
praise God.
kidding me right now?
Low-key
That's too
embarrassed.
Like, embarrassed. But then I was like, well,
I wish I was there.
it was perfect, because I was like, well, I did graduate, and I graduated
Yeah.
with extra credits, and like I
take
just went
that.
on and on. But yeah, I think it would probably be progress, because yeah, I
Well,
think
you
I
have that
wouldn't.
chip on your shoulder.
I have that
That's
chip on
not
my
gonna
shoulder.
go away.
That's not going to
but
go away.
That's
That's
not a bad thing. That's fueling you.
Yeah.
So that's actually the
It's
fact
Yeah.
that you use that for your like motivation is actually good. It's actually great, I think.
Yeah. So I think, yeah, if you took that away from me, like if you told me like this is what you're gonna do for the rest of your life, but it's gonna stay like this for the rest of your life, and it's not, you're not gonna get any promotions.
Take away
There's
your
no
joy.
there's no
And
no raises. There's no nothing.
And stagnant water, it's polluted after a while. It
Yeah.
becomes,
Ooh, that's
water that is
good.
bad.
I like
Yeah.
that. Stagnant water gets polluted. I didn't know that.
Yeah,
yeah, I
you
mean,
can't
like-
use it because it's just there, sitting
Yeah.
there, and so it starts
Builds
creating
algae and
bacteria,
mold
and,
and-
and it becomes useful. I mean, useless.
It's funny because I said that in one of our podcasts, and I said the same thing. It was like stagnant water creates mold. So
Yeah.
if you stay the same, you'll eventually rot
Yeah.
just from not doing anything.
And it's interesting because a lot of electrical things, you do that to like a car and it stops working after a while. You stop using it, it stops working. You stop using your phone,
Begins to fail.
it stops working. Things need to be used.
Yeah.
Definitely.
And I think as humans, well, if we created that, if we are humans and we created that, that means that, that's a design human design created.
Yeah.
So we should also be that same way. You need to use this, And I think it goes back to being, for us at least, it goes back to being Christian. We know we were created for a purpose. We know we were created to always, have something meaningful in our lives, have a purpose.
That's what that question comes down to, though.
Yeah.
Like if you take your purpose out of you, ooh,
What
now,
are you?
now that's dangerous.
A mannequin.
Well, we already answered this. What is culture for you?
I feel like we should have
Close.
started with that one.
I know.
But
To answer these, we had to first do that. But
so how about I rephrase it? How we've been
Yeah.
rephrasing. What is something that you would like to learn?
going forward,
Yeah.
Everything. I want to be able to learn as much as possible so I can answer as many questions as possible.
I mean,
Like
yes,
So
someone
intellect?
asked me.
yes,
Knowledge? You would like to learn in knowledge?
Knowledge
All
is
right.
key, but knowledge without the actual challenge of it is the same thing. It's stagnant. You can know everything, but if no one's asking you the question, where are you at?
Or if you're not applying it.
Yeah. So whatever, I think I would see it this way. Whatever I'm doing, I'm going to research about it. I'm going to have the answers for it. And then when it comes down to doing it, I'm going to apply it.
Like the podcast.
Like the podcast.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
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 have to.
Because I think I told you, I kind of told everybody when we were doing the podcast, when we set up this thing, I didn't even know anything about the XLR cables. I didn't know anything about the microphones, the pop filters. That was all literally diving in, research, get the answer, have the answer, and apply it. And that's why we were able to create the room, the studio, in under a month.
You that
Wow.
I may take it off course of what you asked, but what do you think is more important, knowledge or experience?
Experience.
I knew you were gonna say experience, but that makes.
Yeah.
I think experience for sure.
For example, I have a really, really good example. A lot of people, and I used to be one of those, that I used to complain about having to learn math. And I think at some point a lot of us did, right?
Not me.
But, well,
I love math.
then you have
love
people
math.
that are special. But
And then you have people that are special.
But
hate
I
math.
know I used to say things like, when am I going to use these algorithms, or like the Pythagoras theorem, or like when would I use
Oh, for sure.
an algebra? Like where?
In life.
Where in life? And I'm still waiting. But anyway, however, I throughout my time, I discovered that it's not so much about the math that you're probably never going to use. It's about becoming a
solving.
problem solver. Yes. It's about becoming a
I think
problem
that's what
solver.
school period is about. They just never tell you that.
No, I think I would disagree with it.
I would.
I would
disagree as
agree
well.
with math. Math is important to still teach children, and I think we're doing a very bad job at it.
Yes.
I think right now we're telling children that the only way to solve a problem is this way, and that's the way you need to learn
right,
it.
right.
I've seen it with my nephews.
Standardized
And,
Okay, yeah, I see what you're
yeah,
saying.
exactly. And I think that's super detrimental to kids.
Mm-hmm.
And because kids don't learn the same way.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah, we
and
talked about
you know, you have kids that they're visual. You have kids that are they're more hands
And exactly
on.
what I said.
And so the educational
It is
and the
exactly what you said.
educational system is only going down. You know, with all this woke and all these people, you know, indoctrinating children now. They're not educating children; they're indoctrinating them. So I think we're doing a very, very poor job at it. However, I would say the math is one of those that you need to still teach it. You need to have it because it teaches you how to solve problems, how to look for X, and I think that is very important.
I like the quote that I forgot who said it, but they say math is the closest thing to God's hand, as far as like you can calculate a lot of things, specific people's trends, and kind of like the YouTube algorithm, Instagram. Like you can tell a lot about a person based on just numbers, finances, our lives. We have a credit score.
Well, there is such
things.
a thing as numerology, you know, because numbers tell a lot of things. Obviously, you know, then you run into this thing of like mysticism, and you run into a lot of like astrophysicists and you know things like that. But yes, at the core of it, there's math, and I think you know even when quantum physics, you have math in quantum physics realm, and quantum physics is you know the smallest things you can quantify, and that to me is impressive. I would agree that is something that you can tell is a design by God, because you're measuring the smallest units to the point that they don't exist. Yeah, they don't exist, but then they're here. You know, you have them here. You have whole organisms based on something very, very small.
I think that's why I like math, though, because of that problem-solving aspect. I mean, I guess what I meant by that's what school is for is when you think about it, like school, I guess the subject of school is not necessarily like important, but more of how do you graduate? How do you get a good grade? It's like there's a problem and then there's a solution to it that you have to figure out. So I guess that was like my perspective of what I was looking at it.
Yeah.
But I do also agree that they're not doing that. Like they need to be teaching children how to learn, not as much as like what's important of what they're learning. Of course, there's parts that are important, but like they should be starting with how do you learn? All right, from now going forward, make sure this is everything that you learn going forward. You use like this template, basically.
Yeah.
That would be actually pretty good because if you think about it, right from the beginning, teach them how they learn, and then go, okay, for life you need to know how to do math because taxes and whatnot. Maybe you're not going to be doing them yourself, but there's a possibility. Also, life skills and then other stuff that they should be applying, but they're not applying.
Okay, but don't get too ahead of yourselves because we will be talking about education.
True,
Which is great.
Which is great. So to answer the question, you would like to learn to have knowledge, and then you said what is more important, knowledge or experience, right?
I guess I would like to have
with experience.
I would like to have the wisdom that comes from experiences.
Yeah.
Like if I could just download everyone's experiences and like take like the positive wisdom out of it and have that, that's it.
I agree with experience because, I mean, I went to school and we'll talk about that in careers, but I think experience is better. As far as what I would like to learn, at least in the next coming months, since you guys talked about it, controlling my mind, I think, and what comes out of my mouth. Because they were talking about the power of, words and I do think that
existence.
Sometimes I can be very negative and I don't really see what that impact is having on a lot of areas in my life. And so if there's a way that I can learn to
it's very easy.
Control.
I mean, the fact that you said like you had never thought about your own like
what makes me.
Yeah, to me that's like, oh man, like to me that's like, oh dude, you have so much exploring to do. Like I'm like excited for you. Like
what about you guys?
For me, man, I know a lot. No, for me, I think I would like to learn how to how to be more patient.
I'll give you something to be patient.
Because I think what it is that oftentimes I have a hard time understanding people's behaviors. Because to me, it's like, well, if you're older than me, you should be wiser. Why are you acting like
a child?
Like a child,
Like to
you
talk
know?
about
And I think I have a hard time trying to understand that is just how people are. And, you know, it's not my job to teach them, or who am I even to say, dude, you're acting immature. So I think I would like to learn that. I would like to be not detached,
Empathic.
but yeah, to be very like, you know, it is what it is. You know, this person's behaving. This person's at it again.
So do you mean that, like, you find yourself reacting emotionally to like another person?
No, I find myself sort of passing judgment.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't react. I'm really good
Yeah.
with not reacting.
But I get what you're saying. Like,
But
judgment.
I'm very bad at not thinking about, like, dude, are you really listening to what's coming out of your mouth? Like, are you really serious? Is that really you? You know,
Because
And
you're intentional about how
exactly
you handle yourself.
because I'm very intentional. I'm very intentional about how I behave myself, how I, you know, handle myself. I find it hard
Yeah.
when people aren't as intentional.
Oh,
And I
yeah.
find it very difficult to understand when someone says, "Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't think about it."
Yeah.
How are you not thinking about what you're saying? You know, your mouth is so powerful, and to me, I have a hard time with that.
Have you ever found yourself, like, ever in a moment of, like, you did something and then you looked back, or like you did something, you reacted in a way and you looked back and you were like, dang it, like you were like,
Yes, of course, and that's why I have a harder time, because to me it's like they don't own up to it, and I own up to it,
yeah.
and people don't do that sometimes. People are like, sorry, and you know,
It is.
it is what it is. That's who I am. That's who I am. I don't like it when people say that's who I am. And it's like,
Don't
yes,
get
that's
out.
who I are, but dude, you can change. You
Oh
can
yeah,
change,
that's
you
a
know?
label that they've played. It's almost an excuse.
You know,
It's an
and
excuse.
so
that
for
they've
example,
said.
I always give this example. When people say, I'm very honest, I'm an honest person, I'm gonna tell you if you look fat, I'm gonna tell you if you look ugly, I'm gonna tell you la 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 la.
No,
And to me it's
that's
like
an
that,
excuse.
dude, that's an excuse to being mean.
Exactly.
That's an excuse to say whatever you want without having no repercussions,
repercussions.
because you're honest. And so that's what I mean. That's
Yeah.
what I'm intentional about telling people, hey, maybe try another dress. Or hey, you know, like, hey,
Yeah.
you know, like,
Try
how do you
bigger
like it?
size.
How do you like it? And if you know, that's what I mean. And so sometimes I have a hard time when it's like, I'm 28, you're 40 something. Why?
How are you acting
Where
like
is the,
more
you know?
mature than I am?
Yeah, you've lived longer than I have. I mean, I get that from a 15-year-old. I would
Exactly.
understand it. I would understand it even from another 20-year-old or another 28-year-old. But from a 40-something-year-old, from a 50-year-old, from a 60-year-old, it's just, I have a harder time understanding people just speaking because they have a mouth and not taking accountability afterwards because that's who they are.
That's why we're great together.
And so,
Because I teach her that. I've told her this before. Like, you really think about what you say, and I don't.
You don't.
I
You
don't
either.
I don't, and that's something that I'm working on. That's something that I mean, I have to deal with it with her at work and him at home.
I could teach
So,
you patience.
Literally, like I do sometimes react, and I'm emotional, so I don't think about the consequences of what I'm gonna say, and she does. When she comes in to you, let's say we're gonna confront a situation, right? I'm speaking out of emotion. She's speaking out because she's thought of like Doctor Strange in Endgame,
Of
where he's
every
thinking all the
possible-
possibilities.
all the
If she
possibilities.
says this, I know how to respond. If she says that, I know how to respond. And I'm like, I thought about this for maybe 30 seconds, and really, this is the only way I think you're gonna react. And then she doesn't react like that. I'm like, oh, like,
Yeah.
Do you get tired of it though?
yes, I do. No, which
are you
is
talking
tired of
about
what,
in
though?
general or
Tired of
me?
what?
Wait, tired of what? Tired of what?
No,
Do
what
you-
you said right now. Yes.
do you get
do.
tired of like having to like
Be that intentional.
be that intentional?
Yes,
like,
yes, I do. But here's the thing. I get tired of it, and it's not something to be proud of either, you know, because like I said, I have a hard time understanding people, and I want to understand people. I don't want to push people away, and I don't want to label people as like, dude, you're immature.
But you find
you know,
your
whatever.
own patience is very short with people. Is that what it is?
Yes, but I don't voice it because again, I don't like to
Yeah, yeah,
react.
yeah.
But does it affect you?
That's where the judge.
No, it doesn't.
That's
No,
where
it doesn't. For a while, I'll entertain the thought and I'll be like, "Oh my god, you're so immature," and whatever.
But then you let it go.
But then
and
I let
it's
it go.
like-
However, like for example, I think where I'm having where my impatience comes in is that after a couple times of that same behavior, to me it's easier to say he's gonna act the same way he's been acting,
Right.
and I don't think that's fair sometimes. You know, I don't think it's fair to, like, for example, I know you're here. I'm gonna use Kes as a, like, oh, she's gonna react that way. I know it. I don't think that's a good thing. You know, because people can change and people can surprise me.
and you're not allowing them to.
Exactly, and I'm not allowing them to because by default, I'm always like,
You know what's happened to me so many times? Because I think I'm the type of person that understands people a lot, and I go out of my way to understand people when I'm like talking to them, like on a one-on-one. So, like for example, at work, a lot of times, someone will come in and they'll be stressed out or upset or whatever, like very emotional, right? And
Still recording.
Okay.
Oh.
Sorry.
You're gonna have to cut that. So, a lot of times at work, people will come in and they're very emotional or they're very just upset or whatever is going on. Like they are feeling very upset and are voicing their opinions. And I've always, I don't know why, but I'm such a patient person where I will let them get that anger out. And at first, I didn't.
you get it from your dad.
Yeah.
Come on,
I
let's
know
all be
this.
honest.
Just
Let's
gonna
all
say.
be
I know this,
honest.
but like I do know that, but
And you
I
don't
never
take it
understood
personal.
it. I never take it personal, and like I don't have to. I
Pastor
don't.
You gotta
Renee.
teach me.
I don't have to like. It's not a conscious thing that I have to like not take it personal. Like if I ever take it personal, it has to be like a person whose opinion I actually do care about, which are maybe like, I don't know,
Few
Handful.
people.
like yeah, but like I allow them that ugliness is what I call it to exit, like get out of the way, and then once that is gone, it doesn't land on me. I don't carry it. It's just all right, boom, it's gone. All right, now I can see you and try to talk to you and understand you and work through this. So a lot of times people will do that. They'll vent. If they're really mad, they'll stomp away and leave. They'll come back. I'm sorry. I'm sorry I did that. Like I just want to apologize to you. It's nothing towards you. And then once that humbleness has came out, then I can actually sit down and talk to them and fix whatever the problem was, or you know what I mean? Like
What do
like
you do when you don't get the apology? Like, how do you let that slip off?
I mean, if they're gone, then they're gone. Like nothing I can do. But if they're still there, like I honestly let them get it out. If I don't get the apology, I don't care, as long as they've voiced their frustration or voiced their emotion or whatever's going on. Like if they're crying or whatever, like fine, cry. It's okay for you to feel like that. You're human. I give space for that for them. And once the emotions have been processed, because right now they're identifying in that moment, they're identifying as their emotion, but they are not their emotion. So I never talk to the emotion. I try to let the emotion get out. And then once the emotion has been expressed, now I can talk to the person. And like we can actually work through
I disagree. 100%
Okay.
disagree. I
Let's
do
see.
think people are their reactions. Because I do think that how you react is who you are, which is why I have a hard time.
That's what.
Which is why I have a hard time. Sometimes.
Here's why.
But-
Let me ask you something. Let me say this. I'm gonna put you in the scenario. Say you have 2 children. You have 2 children. It doesn't matter. You have a child. One of them this is gonna be weird. One of them is killed. One of them is killed. You are extremely upset. You are extremely like.
I see where you're going.
You are extremely like as you loved your child obviously, and your immediate thought is I'm going to kill that person that killed my child. You go and kill them. Before that second of your life that you actually committed the crime, like you were the most amazing person ever.
Right.
Would you let that? I mean, sure. Would you say like that you would your entire life that you were a killer? Were you a killer from the beginning, or were you acting out of your emotion and you did something? You didn't act. You
I get what you're
you
saying.
acted off of the
on
situation.
emotion.
Right.
When do you stop being you after so the circumstance?
Right.
happens?
I think that's where self-awareness comes in. And I think we're all capable of something. So because I
Yeah.
know I'm capable of killing someone, yes, I would say that yes. Yes, I've that was always a part of me. I just never was in a situation
Never
where
pushed
that
far
where
enough.
that had to
Yeah.
come out.
I do agree with that.
But
to
for
an extent.
example, I've been in instances where they're screaming at my nephew, and that comes out of me. They're like, who are you to be screaming at my child or my nephew or whatever? So I do think that's why I'm saying, like, when you need to have awareness, you need to know that you are capable of a lot of things.
Mm-hmm.
You are capable of doing things that you think, oh no, I would never. Oh my God, who would
Yeah.
do that? But we are all capable of.
Yeah.
I'm telling you.
I think where you're coming from is kind of like you don't really know why the person acted out in the way that they did in this moment.
Right.
And so can you really say that this person is that based off
Yeah.
of this interaction?
I mean,
that had?
I am very
I think that's
forgiving.
what he's saying.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
I'm very forgiving when it comes to how people react because I don't
You don't know the full story.
know the full story. Yeah.
I think you're talking on patterns.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I think as you were talking previously, I started realizing that I think where I have the problem is I find it unfair that while you have people that are trying to have self-control, you have people that don't care.
Yeah. And that's the problem.
That's the problem. I think I find it very unfair that it's like I'm over here minding my behavior, minding my reactions, minding not hurting you in the process, but it seems like you're unfazed by it. It seems like you really don't care, and you expect me now to justify you when if we were to flip it, I'm 100% sure you wouldn't justify me.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
yeah.
I think
those people are like narcissistic.
yeah,
They're-
so that's where I need the work. That's where I want to learn. I want to learn how to do that, how to be like, you know what, I don't know the full story. I think I find it
takes
easier.
work.
I think I find it easier when it's a one-time thing. And it's like, hey,
They had that
they
one
had that one moment, and we all do.
It's
But when it's a
patterns.
pattern, to me, it's just like, no, this is who you are. This is who you are, and I'm not going to justify you anymore.
But-
I'm not going to give you the
and
benefit
I'll
of
say
the doubt.
this because like I've heard this before. You also have to understand where we're coming from at the same time, because we work in a place where we can't always express what we really
do I.
feel.
Yeah,
so do I.
You know, but like even more so because we work with people from church.
Yeah.
So you're constantly in a place where like I gotta worship next to you, and I gotta think the best out of you. And this goes for everyone in the church. And I feel like even with people at work, like in a sense, like I feel like you could lower down your guard and be maybe even a little bit more carnal, because it's like, well, you know, who is this person? But when this is a person that you congregate with, you can't lower down your guard in the same way. Does that make sense?
Oh yeah.
But ultimately, I think I would agree more with what Jake was saying, because what if this person every single day was dealing with someone that would react the same way that they would react, and then they come up to you and you react the same way? It continues the pattern, right? But if you change, let's say it's Jake, someone comes up to him just out of nowhere, starts yelling at him, well, this is wrong, and this is the problem, and it's your fault, and that's
I
where
start yelling back.
Yeah, he starts yelling back. Well, you were supposed to pay this on time, and so that's
yeah.
going to start a bigger problem. Versus, I'm sorry, let me figure out what's going on. Oh, sorry, ma'am, this is what happened. It didn't get in the mail or whatever situation. We dropped the ball. I apologize for that. And then she's like, oh, okay, well,
No.
it's fixed.
Yeah,
And
I
also-
agree. 100% agree.
I think
People are
what-
having bad days. I agree with having a bad day and reacting.
But
in a
you're
way.
But some
talking
people
about-
have bad
but
months,
some- but-
bad
well,
years.
no,
Some people
and
have bad
some people
lives.
just have
It's
some
just,
people,
you know,
lives.
some people have bad manners.
Bad
some people
manners,
have
too.
bad manners, and I think that's what you're talking about. Like, how many second chances does a person get?
yes, or
Well,
how
doesn't the Bible say
The
turn
Bible
the other
literally
cheek?
says. The Bible literally says. What does it say? Something about 7.
forgive 7
Oh.
times 7.
Oh, yes.
Exactly.
Or 70
So-
times 7.
So
And turn the other cheek.
That's
this is
hard.
what she wants to learn, guys.
That's hard.
Guys, this is what I want to
This is
learn.
what she wants to learn.
I want to
Go to-
turn
But
the other
look,
cheek. Okay?
Read the Bible.
But look, I don't think The only part that I would disagree with what you're saying is when you start to say this is how you are, so this is how like you're going to be every time I encounter
Right.
you.
Yeah.
That's the only part where I would say like of course we all do it. We all like once we get to know someone we realize how they are, and so we also kind of start to like have a certain expectancy out of them.
Mm-hmm.
That's natural, and as a matter of fact you're trying to every time you meet someone you're trying to get to know how they how they are, right? But if someone just has bad manners and at the end of the day it's not your job or responsibility to change them, you just have to be a person, not necessarily deal with them. And that's the thing with customer service. Yes, you do have to deal with it, and I'm pretty good at dealing with it. But I mean, I think the only part that I would say for you is don't take it personal.
I really don't. The
Okay.
thing is, in that moment, to me, it mind boggles me. Like, dude,
Oh yeah.
come
Hey,
on,
Ingrid, that's
like,
what
Like,
you're
you
trying
just-
to learn. You're trying to
yeah,
learn that
I'm telling, yes, that's the word. I'm
The
trying
what?
to learn
Grace.
grace. I'm trying
Oh.
to say,
And this is
hey,
not
you know,
even for an exterior reaction. It's for an inter. She's trying to
yeah,
improve
because
her mind and
because
what
I
she's
don't
feeling.
express it.
Do you hold grudges?
No, I don't. I remember
You
stuff,
said you
but I
do?
don't.
Isn't that
I
a
don't.
grudge?
I don't.
Like I don't get mad. It's just I do remember when
Never
someone
forget.
pisses me off.
I have a very good memory. That's
okay.
why.
So this is a really great conversation, but I am gonna have to like start to end it because
Yes,
we do
yes.
have to move on to the next episode. So we probably will continue this conversation.
But I don't hold grudges, guys. Okay?
Lula's great. Lula's great,
Allegedly.
guys. So thank you guys for
It's never
joining
been
us
proven.
on this episode of Hear Me Out, and catch us on the next one.
Bye.
Yes.